at Evo Auto Works, Southern California, V8 Nissan 370Z, NRG Innovations. Make some noise. It is the one, the only, Jeff Jones.
All right,
What's up, brother?
guys. What are you saying now?
I said, "What's up, brother?"
What's up, baby?
Sorry, I had your volume up really loud there. All I heard was that good old American bald eagle singing in my ear.
Amen to that. Yeah, no, well, we're here another week. I think this is episode 42 or something like that. It feels like 50 plus, though. I mean, for the amount of these we've been doing. But it's been a good time so far, and we are continuing on. And I'm excited to have on a guest that we tried to have on before the season started. But you know what? It doesn't help when his house is floating away with mud. So, there's always things that you got to prioritize there. I'm sure we'll get into a little bit of that. Just such an interesting phenomenon, to be honest. But again, let's first start off with the regulars. Herbie and Brandon, how are you guys doing? It's been a week.
Ducky. It's been a week. It's good. It's a good week. We still gotta figure out the whole PayPal thing.
Nah, well, my bake has been special this week. Like legit special needs talking to this bank. So it's all good,
Yeah,
You just got to be really slow with them. Be like, yes, we can do this in 3 business
Listen,
days.
I don't want to get on your bad side, dude. I don't want to be on the IO, like you send out like the mob and start a hit on me,
No, I have plenty of IOUs out there in the drift world. Don't worry. Brandon, you do anything special ever?
No, I've had a great week though. Great week, nothing special, no driving. I didn't qualify for anything. Nope, I did.
I heard that you did pretty good actually. You had a virtual drift master competition.
Oh yeah, dude. I definitely didn't qualify 37th. That didn't happen at all. I don't know what you're talking about.
It's all good.
Isn't that what they do though? They do like a top 42.
No, not at all.
All right.
They're normal. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least we didn't get
everything else is good though.
I mean, they didn't have 33 drivers and just so
they
would make it in.
Scoot you in.
No. Well, also last year's champion didn't qualify. He qualified 33rd. So
really?
that was crazy. So
wow.
Well,
I don't know. Whatever.
Times are changing. Looks like you're getting kicked out.
Yeah. Switch.
Looking like Daigo
washed
Saito
up at
there.
20 years old. It's crazy. It's crazy out here.
No, but again, and obviously we have the awesome guest here, Jeff Jones. Welcome in, buddy.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Interesting group of dudes you got right here.
Yeah. We're trying to make it sometimes. Every once in a while, we do something cool.
What you guys are talking about, but I think that part was pretty funny.
I mean, let's be honest. We're here and we pretend to drift. Like I drifted, I think, 10 laps this weekend before my car decided to just not want to drive anymore. So, it happens. I think you did better than I did. So,
yeah. I mean, you just went out for funsies. So,
yeah,
Funsies.
But, yeah. So, obviously, we got the first event out of the way this year. With you, Jeff, and I just kind of wanted to go over like what's new with the program because
from the outside, first event, that was like my 10th event already this year.
No, you do a lot more than FD. Let's be honest here. But yeah, so what is new with the program for this year? Because the car does, from the outside, it looks pretty similar, but I was just curious if there's other stuff that we don't know about going on.
Yeah, well, with the car itself, it's actually damn near the exact same thing. Everything of the car itself, the tire is completely different. We have the new Kumho V730 that we pretty much worked on all last year, and that thing is it's a 295 40 18. But basically, last year we didn't have that. We had a 275 35 18 last year. So I was driving on pretty much a prospect tire
Right.
all
Yeah.
last year and trying to figure that out. And then coming into this year, it's a totally new animal. And honestly, I've driven on a 295 with GT in the past and Falcon,
Yeah.
all the other guys. But coming back to it, it's a little bit of a learning curve. I wish I would have gotten onto that tire sooner.
Yeah.
But I was so used to driving on the smaller tire. Kind of actually contemplating all of the other cars I drove during the off season, if that were helping or hurting just a little bit.
Right. Well, let's start with the tire conversation first, because I was kind of curious to talk to you, because obviously I don't know how much is out there on the Kumo tires themselves right now. Obviously, they came in last year, new to the FD, obviously had some growing pains. I mean, at one point you ran some all seasons, just to make sure that they would last the entire run and stuff. So kind of like, what's the conversation when a new tire company is coming into FD, they want to work with you? Like, what's the relationship got to be like for it to be like, obviously they've made some successful changes for this year.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of like, I don't think it's a secret, but
Right.
it's always hard to get on a tire company, right?
Yeah.
If you are sponsored by a tire company, you're damn near golden. That's the first and foremost thing that you want to get.
Yeah.
With GT last year, or 2 years ago,
Yeah.
picking up damn near 90% of the field, when Kumo tires came in and was able to pick me up, that was something that I knew would be really special. They had signed a 3-year contract. They talked to me about, they were very upfront. They're like, hey, we haven't been drifting before at this capacity, and we might not have the best tire at the moment, but we will be developing a tire with your help. And so I was stoked for that. We signed a contract for multiple things and for the year. And, even this year, we've already signed on in September. So I love working with these guys so far and how they're doing it. But, I knew that, it wasn't the best tire. And I had spoken with other tire brands in the series. But I knew with what Kumo wanted to come in and do, I knew that it's the brand that I wanted to work with and be a part of, because I knew that they were going to go full force into it. They're a badass in other racing entities.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that they weren't just going to show up and just have this mediocre tire and just try to run with it. So it wasn't hard for me to say, yes, I want to be a part of Kumo. I think it was an easy decision. Comparatively to what was out there, and knowing that they're going to do 3 years, right?
Right.
I had actually made a mistake, and I don't mind being publicly about most things. I made a mistake betting on Hankook tires a long time ago, thinking, these guys have been in the sport forever; they'll stay around forever. And so I stuck with Hankook instead of jumping ship to Nexen. I'm usually pretty brand loyal. And right after that 1 year, Nexen asked me, you want to go be on Nexen? And I was like, nah, dude, I'll stick with Hankook. They'll probably be here for the long run. It's all good.
Yeah.
So you're right after that.
Find out.
Gone.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. And luckily, Paul Joe, who was working at Nexen at the time, he was able to bring me overboard there. But I was like, that really sucked.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm sorry. That wasn't the year that I jumped to Nexen. That was the year I jumped to Falcon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was the year I was able to make something happen. But yeah, it's interesting, So you got to make your decisions on tires based on a few things,
Mm-hmm. Obviously, the big one being financial.
For a long time, yeah.
But
when you're new into the sport, you'll take any damn thing you can get. For my position, luckily, I was able to have a few choices in what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's cool because, like you said, you get to work with a company that's going to be working directly with you. Obviously, if you got like a GT Radial, they got 20 different guys they can talk to. I mean, they got the whole prospect field to talk to. Nitto's been here forever. So it's curious because now you become almost like, technically probably one of the most important drivers on that tire for them. Mm-hmm. And I feel like you get a lot of, if you wanted special treatment, if you need something, they're there for you. And what I want to know is okay, so obviously the first year there were a lot of improvements that you would want on the tire. what's the conversation like with them? Do you get to actually talk with the guys that make the tire compounds and all that kind of stuff, or is it just like relayed through kind of what you tell the representatives?
Uh, it was as good as you could actually imagine it. So, for round one in Long Beach of last year,
Yeah.
we were just shaking hands with the marketing team. But when it came to round two in Atlanta, that's where they're kind of based out of.
Mm-hmm.
We had the engineers with us. We had
Wow.
the CEO saying hello. And so the conversation started. And they're like, okay, do you love it? Do you hate it? What's going on? And, we don't know how it was. And we had a poor showing last year at Long Beach. Also had a poor showing this year at Long Beach. But in Atlanta, we, won the seeding round, made it to the top 8, and was able to have a conversation with the engineer. And as the year went on, and I found the flaws really quickly in the tire, I was able to ask them, hey, man, can we get the engineer out here? Like, let's make sure we can get this fixed. And they're not a micro brand, right? This is a global, massive brand. So they can't just make a change for me, and they can't just make a change that's just going to shoot out, that's going to be DOT to everyone. So any changes are going to take several months,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they literally flew out the engineer to St. Louis. I don't know if you guys remember the track in the back that we used for the first time in St. Louis
Yep.
for Formula D. So Kevin Wells and the engineer, they let me test on that track. We tested like 4 different compounds of what they already have, and that's where we ended up saying, okay, we know the next 4 tracks are really big. Let's go ahead and use the PS91 at the time. Let's use that for the future tracks like Irwindale, Washington, and because knowing that we would need all the treadwear we could get.
Yeah.
But yeah, the engineer had flown out. I gave him a ride along, did all kinds of tire testing. We cut some tires in half. We did all the cool things that you would think you'd want to do. He gave us like all these, charts of how they graphically put the tire, weighed it down, and the traction that it would make for different weights, different air pressures. And we went over all these, thoughts and possibilities. But at the same time, as this dude's teaching me about tires, which I know, a good amount, but not like an engineer like they do.
Yeah.
They also don't know about drifting. So I'm trying to teach the engineer about drifting.
Yep.
How, what we need as a good tire and why we need it. And, I'm not speaking the exact scientific lingo that he needs. So we're trying to find somewhere in the middle of like, I need side bite here. I need to do this air pressure. Maybe I don't need it to be at that air pressure. Maybe this is just the air pressure we're all used to,
Yeah.
It's like, do we really need to be down to like 8 PSI? Maybe we can figure this out and actually be up at 10 PSI, 12 PSI. So we're not in that D beating area. So as the engineer was super cool, we were able to talk a lot about just tire lingo and figure it out, and explaining to him why we do what we do, why this goofy club is what it is. And it was cool because, at first he's like, dude, let's just build this badass drift specific tire that you can go out and just kick everyone's ass on. And I was so down for that. But there are Formula D rules that we have to stick to. Right? It's got to be a DOT tire.
Yep.
It's got to be a tire that everyone can buy, and so forth. So we were able to meet in the middle, and now we have the new V730 that's really a freaking rocket ship that I've got to now get used to because I was so used to that PS91 towards the end of the year.
Yeah, you're like, oh, take some grip out. Take grip out.
Not really much. At Long Beach, I think we were at like 18 PSI, and I probably should have been higher.
Wow.
I was going like 0 toe in the car. The car was just too gripped up for what I was used to. And that's where I was kind of saying, like, I wish I would have had more time in the car on that tire. Because all the like demo driving that I did and other fun stuff kind of maybe diluted it. Even like I'm sitting here next to my sim, getting some sim practice may have kind of taken that away, and I wasn't able to adjust quick enough to the new badass tire.
Wow.
Right.
But, drivers like Forsberg were like, dude, this tire's awesome. Glad you did what you did with it to get it to where it's at.
That's cool.
Hell yeah. Yeah. I mean, you took out James Dean even on last year's model. So that was right there like a testament.
Tire. That was the PS91.
Yeah. So that was definitely like, even on a compound that isn't, everybody pretty much knew and was in agreement. It's not the best, but like they're figuring it out.
Mm-hmm.
You still did it. So like, that's driver mod too, but like you did, like it was still in the fight, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it was cool.
Yeah, and what's cool is it sounds like this year we have 4 competitive tires. Like usually there's like one or two that are like way ahead, but it sounds like this year it's going to be a really competitive year, and I'm excited for that. Obviously Long Beach is a little bit difficult. It looked like there was everyone looked pretty good at Long Beach. I'm not gonna lie, or a lot of people did. Like I thought a lot of the rookies that came in looked pretty good. And obviously Long Beach, you don't need all the grip in the world to stick with people, compared to like even Atlanta. But it was I'm excited for this year. Even though it's a smaller field, I think it's a very good field still, and it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, I guess before we get more into the FD stuff, like you said, you had a bunch of events that even started before Long Beach. You had the whole thing going on at your house, even. This off season really wasn't an off season for you, was it?
Not at all, dude.
That was pretty terrible. I felt so bad when I saw that. I was like, damn, man.
How does that? So I just want to know how it works, like the landslide stuff. Because like, is this something that in your area you knew was a thing that was a possibility, or is it just something that happened over time?
All right, so I'll give you the breakdown.
Yeah.
So basically, you guys know I'm from the San Fernando Valley.
Mm-hmm.
Recently, a year and a half ago, moved out here to the Inland Empire.
Yeah.
So now we're out here. Land's cheaper. Could park all my trailers, my staging. I've got my staging trailer gear.
Yeah.
So I was able to bring that out as well. So I needed parking for like literally 4 large trailers. We found this land out here, this house, beautiful area. And so when we moved here, the dude had kind of told us that there was a flood like 15 years ago, basically.
Yeah.
And we're like, all right, cool. It's a long ass time ago. Random things happen. So what it is, there's a canal that runs behind my house. So basically a big old, like, you know what a canal is? It's like man-made river.
Man-made river, yeah.
You know? So it collects from the mountains that are about 2 miles from us.
Okay.
Big old mountains. And if you can remember last year, they were all on fire.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
First you get fire. Then later on you get mudslides, and the rain. So all the mudslides collect into the basins or whatever it is. And once those overflow, that all comes down the canal, which we are 2 miles down the way.
Yeah.
And really this canal, it collects from the neighborhood rainwater, the mountain rainwater, and any mud, debris, logs, anything got into that. And it exits out there's 3 or 4 neighbors behind my house. And where this thing exits out, it exits out from a tunnel. It's basically like probably damn near a 10-foot by 10-foot square, right?
Wow.
Just a long tunnel. So it's huge. Lots of water coming through this sucker and mud. And they had told us hours before the sheriff came knock on the door. They're like, hey, you're going to have to evacuate. There's going to be a mudslide coming through here. And it's not really a mudslide like off the side of a hill, but it's from the mudslide coming through the canal, erupting out of the canal, and just coming out.
Filling all the areas.
That little channel can take. But yeah, so my house, my neighbor's house, probably like 8 of us in my little area right here got ruined, got wrecked. And then it's funny because none of it's funny, but it backs up this canal. And because it's a tunnel, like I was explaining, it's not a manhole, but it's like probably large gates that can open on the top of it in case it needed to burst or whatever. Right. It actually did burst open up the way a few miles as well. So
wow,
houses got ruined up there. It's pretty wild. And all this happened like also 15 years ago. But it happened that night within the matter of hours. So
wow.
And as I'm fine with like things going crazy. So I'm just like laughing. I'm like, filming shit. And then actually the video I put up on Instagram wasn't meant to be a post. I don't know if, everyone that commented and saw it, I actually didn't even leave a caption. I thought I was leaving a story.
Oh, damn.
We're filming all the dumb things that happened to us, right? And so I'm just like, oh, damn, this is happening. Check this. Oh, crap. Not even realizing how fast it was escalating.
Right.
And, I just like saw once I let go of the button, it's like it's a post, but I wasn't going to try to sit there and redo it and have time for that. I'm whatever. Right. Send. Didn't even check it till later when everyone else saw what was going on.
Wow.
But yeah, it was just water, man, like crazy through here. It's all fixed now. City took care of it. People around here helped us out, took care of it.
That's
So
cool.
yeah.
that was normal. We just lost about a week. But hey, the land is flatter now than it was before. I've got a brand new fence, you know. So got rid of a bunch of weeds I didn't need. Got rid of a freaking couch I didn't need.
Oh my gosh,
Anything and everything was back is gone. So
that's funny.
reset, bro. Take the good out of it.
Hell yeah,
Hell yeah.
that's
Nice.
crazy. I mean, it's one of those natural disasters that you really don't think about, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, well,
and then
very random. We've
but
had
it
it all
didn't
here.
like affect anything on the house, like
Luckily, we were good. I was able
Yeah.
to put a tarp on the back door, which would have affected us. And then I like pushed the washer and dryer, just the washer, up against the back door.
okay.
And like you have makeshift like sandbag system with
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
tarp, and everything just pushed against the tarp. And luckily, it didn't come into the house.
That's
Hell yeah.
cool.
Got super lucky on that part. It's just literally all the land that we had to bulldoze about 18 inches of dirt out. So it's like a half acre.
Wow.
And
That's crazy, dude.
yeah, it's
So,
tons. The
see,
amount of mud is
now,
insane.
now you can just make a bunch of like dirt bike jumps and stuff with all the extra dirt, right?
There's an empty lot across the street from us, and there's a massive little mountain they made from all the dirt that came from all of us, from our
Oh,
neighbors, inside the canal. Yeah, so now we actually do get a bunch of people coming that are like off-roading on the
Yeah.
mountain.
That's funny.
Some good came out of it, like you said. You give and take.
Exactly.
It's all good.
Well, I mean, and
Yeah.
like you said, it was in the middle of like 10 other things that you were doing at the same time. I mean,
Oh, it happened at the like best time in a way. I
okay.
literally just got back from New Zealand,
Okay, yeah.
right? And so my wife would have been home alone had I not gotten back. So I had just gotten back. I was only home for like 2 or 3 days, and it had happened the weekend just before Hot Pit round 1, right?
Yep.
And so had it happened like 5 days earlier, she'd have been screwed by herself. All my stuff would have been like underneath, because we did have to evacuate trailers and race cars and things like that.
Yeah.
That would have all been under mud. And if it had happened like a week later, it would have happened during Hot Pit, and
Mhm.
that would, be damn near impossible to run it if I'm not there. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
that happening during the event would be insane.
Exactly. That's true. Well, I mean, let's start out with New Zealand because that looked like a lot of fun.
Oh my god, that was so much fun. I'm actually wearing the sweater. James,
look at
yeah, James.
Yeah.
So basically, Luke Fink invited me out. He's like, "Hey Jeff, you want to return the favor?" Because I brought him out here for Hot Pit, and so he brought me
Right.
out to go out there and compete. My first time driving right-hand drive vehicle. It's an S chassis, so at least that part was pretty easy.
Right.
It was a V8, it's turbocharged, a little bit on the laggy side, but man, it was super fun. Anywhere I looked was just amazingly beautiful.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I mean,
and it was insanely beautiful.
what always fascinates me is it's an island out there, but for some reason just has amazing drift.
Yeah. Oh, the drifters out there are badass. Like, all those dudes are really good. We didn't even get a lot of track time, to be honest, but those guys were absolute rippers. They do like a pro class and probably like a semi-pro class, I would call it.
Yeah.
And they got their basic pro-am stuff out there. Their live stream, if you ever get a chance to watch it, is top tier for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're really good at that. And I got to drive on Tapo, which is a really fun track. We did the ACS boys made it for Seto Corsa.
Yeah.
So if you want to get on there and get some laps, that's a really fun track. It's just one of those rarity tracks. It reminds me of like Atlanta.
Yeah.
Just it's not that the shape of it's like Atlanta, but just it's naturally formed for drifting.
That's cool.
Okay.
It's a super high speed, super fun competition.
Did they so over there I guess there's a couple questions. So are the cars different out there? Is the style of drifting different out there? And kind of what was their perspective on drifting compared to like over here in America?
Yeah. They've been drifting for 20 years also.
Right.
Right. So they actually in some ways are ahead of us as far as like the culture, maybe because they're so much closer to Japan
Yeah.
and where that comes from. The cars themselves probably lean way more towards JZ's
Yeah.
because easier to get those parts over there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The LS stuff, they definitely have it. I was talking with one of the guys, Chicken is his nickname.
Nice.
They have, what is it, like aluminum LS3s, LS1s all day long as well.
Okay.
They don't have enough iron blocks out there.
Yeah.
They don't have all the trucks that
Yeah.
we.
Oh yeah.
So they'll actually have more issues finding an iron block to make bigger power. So they have to then jump to like an RHS block or an LSR or what's a block, which costs like $5,000, right?
Yeah.
So they're
Yeah.
kind of one of their limiting factors on their LS making power is that an LS1 you really can't go over. I don't know, say like 600 horsepower before you
Right.
start running into some possible issues with overheating. The sleeves in an LS1 aren't very great. That's just
Right.
technical stuff. But yeah, lots of great JZs over there. There's a dude who's got a badass SR20 making like 1,000 horsepower.
Wow.
I want to say they're probably all really fast drivers because their courses, at least that I went to, Topo and some of the ones I saw, are very fast paced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the tires they're using is that Tri-Ace tire.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's one of those like straight up cheater tires, I
Cheater
want to
tires,
say.
yeah.
Sticky. Yeah.
Like, yeah, you put this tire on. I've only heard this said from James Dean and the other guys about Drift Masters. But yeah, man, like you put this tire on, and like who even cares what your suspension's doing at that point?
Yeah.
So I put that tire on day one, and I'm trying to get my mind set up for right hand drive and using my left hand to shift and handbrake. Well, this tire's too freaking good. And so I'm like understeering and doing random things. So I tell Luke, I'm like, hey man, we have other tires, right? He's like, oh yeah, just whatever you want to rock, let us know. So they had another tire called Good Ride.
Okay.
I've never heard of it before, but yeah, they had that one. They had some GTs, but it's not the race compound like RSGT. It's
Okay.
their one. Like, remember the one that Chelsea Enofa was gluing?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They have that GT over there, so it's not the good one. It looks like the good one, but it's not. So they got that one over there. I tried the GT, and it's that one. And I didn't know it was that one until I tried it. I'm like, nope, take it off, take it off, take it off.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we put the Good Ride on there. And the Good Ride had a really good balance, grip ratio.
Yeah.
And, it's not as good. And, some of the guys were like, why would you want that tire? It was a good balance to the car. So I was able to slow the car down on its rotation. So that actually was allowing my brain to compute while
Right.
trying to figure out, okay, handbrake here, shifter's here.
Yeah.
So the first day of competition, I used that tire, and it worked out great. Once I got to the second day of competition, that's when I'm like, all right, I think I'm ready for the Tri-Ace.
Yeah.
I was able to, my brain, now that shifting
Keep up.
became second-hand nature on that, I was able to run that tire. But yeah, it's a straight freaking cheater tire, bro. That would just
Doing wheelies and backflips all over the place.
And you would think that, oh, that's got to be great. Why don't we have that here in the U.S.? It's not necessarily balanced. So I don't necessarily know that that's a tire I would even want to use,
Right.
Yeah.
I think our tires in the U.S. have a pretty good well balance.
Yeah.
And what I like about it is it makes setup that much more important over here in America, and that's always been the thing. And I feel like even Connor, when he came over, was like, yeah, he has to set his car up differently to be competitive over here than he would have over in Drift Masters. That's what he said after this round because he set up his 8.6 like he would over in Drift Masters, and he's like, yep, this is not competitive. So it's definitely a new challenge I like over here. And no one really wants to see like one tire just destroy everyone else. Like, that's not very fun,
No. It's like this year in F1 now that like the whole pack is like you don't know who's actually going to win. You don't ever want to really know who's going to win.
Yeah.
The tire war has been one of the funnest and most talked about things in drifting since day one.
Oh yeah.
Right? You gravitate towards, the Team Falcon, Team
Yep.
Kumo, Hankook team. It's always been like something that people gravitate. So I'm against like the spec tire scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I agree with that.
it's a really it's a fun tire war, like you said. Though over here, everything's in a relatively competitive fashion, which I really like. But
Yep.
obviously that was a really cool experience that you got to go over there. I mean, what flight is that? Like an 18-hour deal or?
I think it's in the 15 to 16 hour range.
Okay.
Sheesh.
I got to experience it twice in 1 month though.
What?
Because I also went to Taiwan.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I went to
I forgot
Taiwan
about that trip.
Yeah, so that was my first. Was going to be my first debut in competing, internationally.
Yeah.
Got there, test drove the car. I broke the transmission on day one, and
Oh.
unfortunately, don't know if the setback was set wrong or just what happened there.
Yeah.
And then day two in the actual competition, my first lap out, I broke the dry shaft.
Ah,
Whatever was happening is just like bad luck on when
yeah.
you're running it. When you think about it, it's the same scenario that happens, right? People come here back in the day, and things would break on them. You're like, oh, what happened? You're like, oh, it's not his car.
Mm-hmm.
Something happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, just unfortunate turn of events on that one. Those guys were super cool. That was Team Silver Mist brought me out. Those guys are all super rad too. They are more, well, let's say they've been drifting for a long time.
Right.
Yeah.
But now their drifting has also gotten really big with the help of Formula D and some of the guys that invested in it.
Yeah.
The thing about them though is and I told them this when I was there. It's like I feel like they're building their car from magazines.
Interesting.
And what I mean by that is like they're seeing what we're doing, but they don't have the knowledge of what we've actually been doing for years, like the mechanical knowledge.
Right.
It's like you kind of always see these dudes that would build their cars from magazines back in the day, and
Mm-hmm.
they only knew what they read,
Yeah.
right? They didn't have
It's like,
that.
oh, it's got this, but
Mhm.
they don't have the love for the inside of how to make those things.
Yep, they
Or
just
just
didn't
the
have the
knowledge
years of
base,
experience
you know?
of messing it up
Yeah.
to fix it, to do the things.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the scenario that I was seeing with a lot of cars because they all had a JZ, and Toyota's the number one manufacturer in Taiwan. They told me, so it's like
Yeah.
Toyota super easy. They all had a Samsonus, let's call it sequential.
Yeah.
They
Mhm.
all had a dog box or a quick change,
Quick change. Yep.
right? But most of them had like your basic dry shaft, like
Oh.
down the street to anyone who's doing the Toyota pickup truck dry shaft.
Yep.
That's who's making it. And I'm like, man, it's not even balanced. It should be 3.5 inches. It shouldn't be like a 2.5 inch.
Right.
Yeah.
Not for
So
that power
these are
level.
the small things,
Interesting.
like the U joints that they're using, just all these like small things. The nuts and bolts in between. So they bought the badass stuff,
Oh yeah.
but they didn't know like the in between stuff on how to really make sure it lasts and work.
Yeah. I'm sure like car setup was always a challenge over there too, and
Exactly, yeah. The car setups were a little bit wrong and different. But hey, those guys, they're working really hard, and they're not that they're wealthy, but they're ambitious.
yeah.
Some of them are wealthy, some of them are not, but they're ambitious and they're reading and learning. So I think that they're going to be pretty badass really soon once they figure out all the things in between. And we've
Yeah.
invited them to hang out with us so we can, get them up to speed just as fast.
That's really
Yeah,
cool.
I'm sure they were super
That'd be
grateful
cool.
when you gave them some tips and pointers. Even just like showing them like you got to balance the drive shaft. Obviously you can make it work. You've been making it work by just sticking a piece of metal in between.
When I
connecting
first got there, I don't think that they felt grateful when I was. Me and my buddy, I took out Cody Brightenstein with me.
Yeah.
And when we first got there, and we're like, oh, we want to change this, we want to change that, like toe to this position, this is steering, this and that. And at first, I think the mechanics were like, no, bro, why are you trying to change all of our stuff? And by the time it was like the end of the week, and I was out there,
Yeah.
they realized what we were trying to do and the changes that we want to make. And so at that point, they're like, oh yeah, sweet, let's
Yeah.
make that change. So it just
Yeah,
took a week of camaraderie building before they realized.
taking us as like the typical arrogant American, coming over like it's our way. Here it comes.
No, I'm not trying to,
Yeah, no, you were really just trying to yeah.
you're here before. Yeah,
That's funny. Yeah. Well,
no, it's a good time too, though.
bringing it back to the States though, you do something called hot pits or something. It's a little
Yeah.
We'll get
It's
together.
like a small organization now.
Yeah.
Small organization. Little pick in the mud of Drift Event over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, dude, that thing has been blowing up.
Dude, it's so cool to see because like I don't. Oh, I consider myself over in the East Coast, even though I'm like Midwest. But like, just that's because what I've always covered is the East Coast side of drifting,
Sure.
and I've never really heard of a comp series blow up until Hot Pits over in the West
Yeah.
Coast. Like, and there were comps and stuff.
Yeah, Vegas Drift and
Right.
like Sonoma Drift or whatever it was.
Stuff.
Yeah,
But like it not at the same level as
Yeah.
what I've known this as already. Maybe it's because now I'm more in the scene too, but at the same time I don't think so.
Well, we took a different approach to it, for sure. I mean, originally,
Well, you were a DJ, right? Or
yeah, I was a DJ.
so yeah, Chuck in the chat said Jeff Jones is my favorite DJ.
Oh my god.
I thought I also had remembered somebody saying that too. I was like,
Yep.
I'm like, this would explain why he's always this good, high energy, like positive vibes. Like he's DJ vibes.
Exactly. I mean, and that was a part of it. Me and RJ were DJing up at Willow Springs.
Mhm.
You know, it's one of those. It was just all-star bash, and we decided. You know, he brought his DJ stuff, and I was like, "Yo, let me get on there." And we started playing together, shooting the shit, talking about doing a drift event. And initially, it wasn't the plan to be as big as it is.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't even have done it had Drift League not taken a year off.
Yeah.
Top Drift didn't exist in SoCal. And so I wouldn't have really done something that would have stepped on people's toes just to come out, you know, hard and swinging like this. But when Drift League said they weren't coming back, I was like, man, I can't not let there be drifting in SoCal.
Right.
You know, as someone who's earned my stripes in SoCal, all my entire career is owed to going to Irwindale and watching drifting, you know, as a young kid.
Right.
So I was like, all right, I got to do something. So we created Hot Pit, and the difference for me was, you know, you see James Dean and other dudes in other countries, how they compete locally and have fun with all of their friends and compete. And there's different, I want to say there's different pro series, you know, in other countries, multiple pro series. We only have one pro series here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Formula D, and that's it. So if you're a pro driver, you can't compete anywhere else. And I always wanted to continue to compete in Top Drift or continue to compete wherever else. But every time I'd show up or, you know, say, hey, can I compete? Even though I was like, you know, smaller dude on the totem pole Formula D things, they're like, no, you're an FD driver. You can't come compete here. It's like, well, that sucks because, you know, I get my butt kicked over there.
Right.
Yeah, I can't get any better over here. I can't.
Yeah, you just won't let me drive. And so you have this amount of guys who were not down because they really thought you were taking away a pro license from them.
Yeah.
Right. And then you had the amount of guys who were like, dude, I would love to compete against, you know, Forsberg, Dean, Vaughn, JTP, whoever, right? The badasses of the badasses.
Right.
But they can't afford it.
Mm-hmm.
They're your local badass heroes, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe they could afford it. They were just smart enough not to afford it.
Right,
Yeah.
So I was like, well, let's do a series where only badass dudes can compete. You know, it's not open to, it's not an open invite. So I think a lot of people know this. Hot Pit is not an open invitational. It is an invitational to where you got to be a badass to compete. It's not open registration.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're turning people down all the time, and you know that sucks to tell people, hey, you don't have enough competition experience or whatnot.
Right.
But I knew that the only way I was going to be able to get like Forrest Wing, other badass drivers to come out was they needed to see the competition and go, okay, these dudes are all rippers.
Right.
I don't want my car to get smashed up against somebody who's on their first day.
Yeah.
And I want people that like really appreciate their whip just as much as any of us do.
Right.
You know, and that's kind of why we turned down, like, what do you call those things? The brain fart, but the you know, the roll caged cars without any bodywork on them. You know,
yeah.
You know, the death cart kind of thing.
Yeah.
Those guys, you know, yeah, they're getting some good tandem and whatnot, but they don't give a damn. They'll just slam their ride up against yours.
Yeah. That's
You
the
know?
ultimate missile.
But if we're going to bring out pro cars, the missile cars, we're going to bring out good looking pro cars.
Mm-hmm.
Then we need to make sure that everyone else appreciates their ride just as much.
Exactly.
So that was another part of that, and then trying to justify how do we bring pro cars without them running away from it. So that's where the tire rule comes in.
Yeah.
265 max width, 300 tread wear. That way, a pro car can't really get away from anyone because
Right.
it doesn't have a tire under it. Yeah. So just implementing those rules, and then asking my fellow pro friends to want to come out and have some fun. It's kind of just the recipe of where we got to where we are.
That's
How
so
many
cool.
drivers do you have at an event?
So the goal is we'll take 36 season drivers.
Okay.
So at any given event, we'll probably have somewhere between 32 to 40 maximum.
Okay. Wow.
I wanted to do 40 max because, no shade to like clutch kickers and the rest of these
Mhm.
groups that do this, but it was never my goal to pay for the event via the driver's registration fee.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah.
registration fee just goes right back towards the drivers and winnings, or
Right.
paying for things. Shit adds up real fast on things you got to pay for to make it happen.
Right.
But I wanted to pay for the venue with the fans' money
Yeah.
Right.
and let the registration money go back to the drivers. And even with that, I'm a big fan of like making sure the drivers are happy at the end of the day and making
Mhm.
sure that they got enough laps to put on a good show. So that's why we only did 40 drivers maximum.
That's fair. Yeah.
That way, if
that's
they're getting enough practice laps, they're not like just one of 80 and they only got 5 laps in the whole weekend.
Right.
I'd rather just see 32 dudes slamming away.
Mhm.
But there's always one or two guys that wreck, blow a motor,
Yep.
can't make it. So you got to take a couple extras. And then we reserve the 4 spots for any like badass pros that want to show up. Like
Wow.
when Connor calls you up, it's like, hey, I want to come play.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm in town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jack, because I'm like, hey, you're coming for the YSFAB event? Why don't you come play with us? Same thing, Odie
That's cool.
Boxes, Trent Beecham, they came out last year around 5.
Wow.
And then Rome and Kyle are just kind of staples. They're local. They
Yeah.
both got extra cars. It's like, why not? More practice, more fun, local stuff.
That's so
They've all
cool.
made some money off of us.
Well,
Yeah, you win at $5,000, so why not?
yeah,
Hell
and
yeah.
the cool thing is you ended up talking with FD to get something out of the series though
Mhm.
that no other series has ever gotten. And how did you do that? Like, what was
Well-
the conversation like?
You got to be good friends with Kevin Wells and Andy Luck. Got to really spread the love there. But no, I mean, I had been inviting them over to see what we're doing.
Yeah.
Even before I started the series, I literally called Ryan Sage and was like, hey, bud, here's what I'm thinking about doing. And I don't want this to seem like it's in any way trying to be a conflict, because obviously I want to compete in FD for multiple years. I want this to be a compliment, not something that conflicts. And so we kind of knew where we were going in our direction from the get-go. And with that being said, I also turned down Kevin Wells for being a Formula D licensing series initially, or Pro Spec license. And he's like, why don't you want to be an FD licensing series? I was like, well, we're not a Pro-Am. And I don't want to follow the FD rulebook,
Yeah.
right? A lot of the other Pro-Am series just follow the FD rulebook.
Yep.
And so I said, I have our own rulebook. It's a little bit more laid back. We have different rules than FD. Like, we don't have hard zeros. The hard zero thing is, I mean, we do have incompletes. They're obvious.
Right.
Somebody falls off track or goes upside down. Needed, right?
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
But someone straightens up, has to initiates after the initiation point. I always hate it when like that was a forced zero.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the reason I wanted to get rid of like zeros. Like, you call it a 1, right? But
Mhm.
in my eyes, there's never a time where someone straightens up and then reinitiates, understeers and then initiates, is equivalent to someone upside down on fire. Right?
Sure.
I'm like, there's no reason for this to be a one more time, because this dude straightened up and this dude, wrecked, flipped over, whatever. Because you have these situations where like both lead drivers made a mistake, so now therefore you don't have a full run, so you have to, revert to
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
And that's not that, man. It's like they're just not equal to equal. So I let the judges choose the lesser of two equals. so the show can just move on if it needs to. And so
Nice.
it's a simple rule change, but a lot of people don't like it or don't get it because they're so used to FD on the, front tires can't straighten scenario.
Yeah.
And to me, it's also like, skateboarding, when these dudes are freestyling, they'll miss a trick, but they'll hop right back on the board and continue going.
True. Yeah.
They're still collecting points, right? Same thing on a motorcycle or bike. They got their 30 seconds to shine.
Right.
So that's kind of where I was on it. I'm like, there's no reason why you just crushed it and then something happened. And then now your whole run is void.
No, I mean, you make a good point, and it's a very.
Yeah.
The reason I've always liked the zero system was because it was pretty cut and dry,
Mhm.
and it made the sport easier to understand. But I understand completely where you're coming from, because there are some very minute things you can get a zero for in a lot of series that really don't affect the run that much.
And I think you said cut and dry, but it's cut and dry to the ultimate fan. It's not
Yeah.
cut and dry to, like, if you brought your mom and dad, right?
Right.
They've maybe watched the sport once or twice because they saw you watching in the background.
Mm-hmm.
And now they just see this
Dude.
absolutely crush it.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, he got a zero? Why? I seen him do all that badass stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, well, it's in one spot for the 10 feet. His tires went, And it's like,
Yeah.
this is not what we need to say is a zero or incomplete. Yeah, when the dude goes 4 tires off, it's way more obvious, right? Dude
Mhm.
flips over, dude's, it's way more obvious. But the whole front tire thing. And then, and to that same effect, another major rule change that we have is our qualifying. So we've done 2 things. We had qualifying that changed the rule to, and then we did get away from qualifying last year and we went to pulling chips. Most of the drivers didn't like pulling the chips. So because I don't have to please an audience on Friday, we just went back to qualifying to rather please the drivers on Friday.
Nice.
So our difference in rules for qualifying is you can spin out and still qualify.
Okay.
So what happens here is, let's say you are on a freaking heater of a lap and you spin out across the finish line. Ideally, that's a zero, right?
Right.
So what we call that
Yeah.
is whatever he scored. Let's say he scored a 90, a 95, he or she scores a 95. Well, you spun out across the finish line, right? Whatever you were doing badass, and you spun out. So we'll call that a 95 with an incomplete. A 95 with a zero is how we actually write it down in the thing.
Huh.
And so you're in the show and you're qualified, but your position won't be any higher than someone who qualified with a full pool. So if somebody qualified with 8 and our lowest person is an 80, your 95 with a zero will be under that person with an 80. And the
Okay.
reason we're able to do this is because all of our drivers are absolute rippers. This isn't open registration. So don't think that we got somebody that spun out because they suck. You got like Rome Charpentier who just put down a heater of a run, and because he knew he had the freedom to, he like threw on this backy at the end of the track and just overcooked it and zeroed. But now he knows he's still in the show, and the person he has to go up against isn't like, oh, this guy got a zero, he sucks. It's, oh no, he was just doing badass and overcooked it for whatever reason. Or you also have mechanical failures, right? Someone's at the end of their run, they're crushing it, and then they blow an axle out.
Yeah.
So we know our 40 drivers are all really good, right? They're all badass dudes. You got Connor Shanahan, you got freaking Rome, you got Cody Breitenstein, you got Wesley Stumps. You got any of these drivers who I know can rip, who I'll put my pro car up against next to, no problem. So I'm not worried that they suck and have a zero. So they're in no matter what. So the next day, so I don't know if you can hear my dog scratching over back here. The next day, we go into what's called our death match.
Yeah.
So our death match is it's 25 versus 40. It's the last 16 spots.
Yep.
Are doing a tandem battle for the last 8 spots. Right? So 16 drivers are battling for the last 8 spots. So what Formula D used to do, it's the same thing. Formula D used to have the second round of qualifying.
Yep.
Right? Everyone would go qualify. The last 16 dudes would requalify for the last 8 spots.
Yep.
We just do a tandem battle.
Oh, that's cool.
That's pretty
Right?
cool.
So
Really cool.
Oh, yeah.
battle instead of doing qualifying. And so now 25 is probably going against, let's say, Rome, who got a 95 and then blew out his axle.
Yeah.
Right? He's now last place. So now he goes against 25th, and they got to battle it out. Or 26 against 39th, and they're a little bit closer to each other as far as qualifying scores go.
Right.
And some of the dudes who had a mechanical failure and found themselves on the back half of this, being like 30th spot, 35th spot,
Right.
they're able to fix their car and tandem battle back in.
Yep.
That's
So
I
cool.
like
cool.
that.
These may be slightly hard rules to follow explaining this over there. I hope
No,
you're following.
I get it.
No,
No,
I get that.
Pretty simple.
It's a
These are
different
how
take
our
on a
rules-
seating bracket.
Exactly. So these are how our rules differ from Formula D. And so back to your original question about getting a Formula D license, we had to figure out how our rules differ from Formula D's. So initially, 3 years ago, they gave us a scouting license, meaning that myself as a pro driver who's created this series, it's a legitimized series, I can pick any one of our drivers to be a pro spec driver. So I can say,
Yeah.
hey, Kevin, this guy crushed it all year long. He can afford it. He's a professional. He won't be in your way. He'll do good. We had the ability to do that for the last 2 years. This year, 2024, I approached Kevin and Andy and the rest of the team and said, hey, guys, our stuff's getting really badass. And we've got, like on any given day, 4 or 5 pro drivers or, 13 pro spec drivers,
Yeah.
depending. So, and the rest of the dudes are absolutely crushing it. And, we do 5 rounds. Pro spec does 4 rounds.
Oh.
We have a spec style of tire. We do travel. We travel, mostly we're Orange Show. Yeah, we're SoCal based, but
Yeah.
our drivers coming to us are coming from Arizona, Washington, Texas,
Yep.
New Zealand, Australia, Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So our drivers, yeah, okay, they're not, traveling for the series, but they're traveling to get to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you still had the traveling aspect because people still had to get here. So it's not like we don't have travel. So I pointed out, hey, dude, I think it's harder to get a license in hot pit than it is in prospect. Prospect does 4 rounds, and they got 3 licenses they give away.
Mm-hmm.
I said, just give me one. And it has to be for the championship winning driver, and they have to beat all the pros and all the people. If they don't get number 1 championship spot at the end of the year, they'll just get a prospect license. So
Okay.
that's we're like,
Okay.
okay, this works. So Rome will be the gatekeeper probably.
That's cool.
I was gonna say, so like, say like Rome wins it this year, and then the dude in second isn't in FD. Would he get the pro license, or is
No,
Rome going to be the
he'll get
gatekeeper?
prospect license.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, and at that, even if they said he would, I probably wouldn't allow it.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense. That's a big jump
It,
for sure.
it's been to our discretion to allow who we think should be able to bump up. And there's a couple badass dudes, but if we send someone up, we want to make sure they represent good.
Exactly.
They
That's
got to follow the rules, do all the things
Yeah.
we need them to do.
Yeah,
not be-
don't hold the show up, and
Did
know.
you
Yeah.
after you announced that, did you get a lot of just people applications for the series and stuff because of that chance of getting a pro license, or not really? It was kind of like you had your group already.
We mostly had our group already. I think we only had about 4 spots available.
Oh,
And I probably got somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 applicants that called me or messaged me that just wanted a pro license.
mm.
And probably 19 of them I told to just go away. If you're coming to Hot Pit because you just want a pro license, you're coming for the wrong reasons, and we
Yeah.
probably would deny you anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't want someone who's there just for a pro license. We offer so much more than an FD pro license, And same thing for the people that want to come to just win the $5,000. Like you're probably not going to get it. You're probably going to get your ass kicked.
Yeah.
Plenty of other badass dudes here. Like if you're coming to Hot Pit, it's because you're coming to have some fun with the boys.
Right.
If you so happen to also want some money and an FD license, that's also available. But yeah, the people that were like, "Oh, Jeff, I want to get that license," I'm like, dude, honestly, you're either not even ready or it was just the wrong vibe. And there was a couple people that I talked to. They're like, "Yeah, you probably could get it. come welcome to the fight. But they wanted the whole experience, so that's cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And I mean,
Uh,
congrats on like the series because it.
Yeah.
There are a lot of series that come and go. Let's just say that, and running a successful one is less than easy to do.
Yeah,
Right?
and having like the home track like get ripped out from under you, Irwindale, being torn down, and then you just like bouncing right back and finding other places and avenues to make this still happen. So, I mean, it's admirable for sure.
Yeah. It's man, I have to appreciate more and more Formula D every time I do one of these. How much stress is in the background, and then at the same time, like being even more upset at some of the guys that half-assed this that could have done a better job.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's like you can't just throw an event and hope that you're making money off drivers. You got to put more effort into it because we can all make drifting bigger together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
cool.
I feel like it gets a ton of good like eyes on it all the time. Every time you have a round, there's always something like a viral clip of or just good vibes or whatever. Like just tons of just good driving there.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
group of drivers that we have is absolutely amazing. These guys really could all be, with Formula D. Probably just most of them just can't afford it.
100%. That's
Yeah.
so cool. Let's hit a
I
couple of the
definitely wanna
questions
make it
in the
out.
chat. While we got a little bit of time, and then we'll hit a couple more topics here. Casey says Jeff made me a fan because he's the only driver that offers zip hoodies. Everyone else only has pullovers. Shout out to Jeff's rad clothing line, by the way. Big
Awesome.
drift energy over here.
Yep. Appreciate
Uh,
it.
Chris Hernandez, question for Jeff. What track would you say is the most difficult for you to perfect and why? Pleasure meeting you at Formula Drift Long Beach.
Let's see. I guess. I mean, man, I've had some success at Long Beach, but that's probably one of the hardest tracks to perfect, to be honest with you. There's tracks like Irwindale and Washington, but those are more forgiving. When you wreck on those tracks, you kind of just hit the wall and
Yeah.
roll out. Freaking Long Beach, man. Even though I've had really good success in Super Drift, beating some pretty high quality drivers there. That track is just mean when you wreck. It's flat walls,
Yeah.
St. Louis also sucks. Just throw it out.
for
It's just
so many reasons.
Many reasons.
Yeah, if it gets hot out and the wind isn't like blowing the right way, all you smell is the dog food.
Yes,
It smells like ass.
So St. Louis just sucks. With that, Long Beach is one of the harder tracks to perfect as far as suspension, driving. Everything's got to click at the same time.
Well, and it's always
How do you-
changing too. I feel like the grip levels are never the same there, year on
No,
year.
they're not.
How do you feel on their release of the new Long Beach round 8?
The graph, I don't think is going to do it any justice. The graph looks like it was a tiny little track, like second gear everywhere.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see, because we know what they did with Red Bull Drift Championship, right?
Okay.
So we know the amount of room that they have. So I think it's going to be freaking rad. Long Beach is attendance-wise is the biggest event that we have,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think I don't see why we probably won't get 20 to 30,000 fans if they set it up the way that they want to and do what they want. So
Yeah.
it should be freaking awesome, man.
Well,
it's
it
a good
sounds
thing.
like they're trying to do a stadium thing. I don't know entirely on how they were going to set it up, but it sounds like it's going to be a lot better viewing for fans as well than regular Long Beach.
Yeah. I mean, of course, it'll be obviously impossible to replace Irwindale for what it was for the finals of Formula D. But yeah, I'm excited for Long Beach for sure. I think that graph sucked though. I wish they would have
Yeah.
had.
You mean that you
Yeah.
can't crab walk the car over the finish line
Over
for
the
like
finish line, go
25
90?
feet?
Yeah.
Yeah, the graph was funny.
They couldn't have just had someone
Like someone
from
on a
Macedo make
setup?
something.
Yeah, they couldn't have made it in the game. Had some
Yeah.
drive it.
I mean, I don't even know if that's the planned track. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. But I'm sure it'll be much faster pace or something like that.
Yeah. No, it'll be interesting for sure. I mean, I heard a couple people describe it as more of a Driftmaster style track where there's a lot more corners, maybe slower paced. But again, regardless, it's going to be it's gonna be good vibes. You know, it's Long Beach.
Yeah.
You know,
I think it'll be cool.
I'm excited.
I
for
think
it.
I hated on it a little early. I think I got mad at first.
Well, I
really,
said it
like,
was a parking lot. I'm like,
I
it's
mean,
a
I
parking
wasn't
lot, you
very-
know. But the
But then, like,
the
I
fun
thought
part
about
about
it.
parking lot is you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, I thought
Yeah.
about Long Beach. I'm like, there's no elevation change here either. It's just a
True.
street. I'm like, all because it's on a
Fine.
street makes it cool to me. I'm like, this could be cool too.
I would say 50% of it is the street.
Yeah, I don't really know what's going on. I really don't know what's going on down there.
And I think it'll be absolutely rad once it's all said and done for sure. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, the graph, I think ignore the graph they made or all that.
Just trust the process.
Yeah, trust the process.
Yeah, no. Staffa Amation New Zealand says cheers for coming out to New Zealand, brother. Shutter or Chuck is like Jeff Jones is my favorite DJ. Shout out Chuck. Let's see.
You know the New Zealand people, man. Like I was the mean guy over there.
Yeah, were you hitting people?
Everyone is so freaking nice.
Oh yeah.
Beyond nice. Like we just seem like assholes when we go over there, probably.
Well,
Like,
being that I
guys-
work for a company from New Zealand, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
one of the
we'll see.
things that they don't, it's interesting. I'm trying to, how do I say this? They like Americans are very forward with what they like and don't like. They don't really tell you. Like they're just like everything's cool or whatever. Like they're very. They don't want to hurt your feelings, you know. And like an American really doesn't care. Like we're just gonna tell you how it is, and them they're very conscious of how you feel or how they would take, even how they would even give criticism, you know.
I just know the casual conversation there went a long way. It's like anywhere you went, didn't matter who you were next to, you were going to have a conversation with. And I had a conversation with this lady on the plane because I landed in the I forget what it's called. I forget. But flying from the larger area to the smaller area,
Yeah.
talked to this nice lady on the plane about anything and everything, and we started talking about drifting. And she's just like your casual business lady. She's like, "Oh yeah, I know about drifting. Mad Mike's really cool." And I'm like, "You know who Mad Mike is? You know about drifting? You get into cars? No, it's crap. The whole story is about drifting. They're not even into cars. You know, it's just like being into baseball. You know? It's like, oh yeah, that's just one of the major things here.
That's so
cool.
cool.
Wow.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Really cool.
Yeah. Phil
Yeah.
Phil with the little joke here. He's like, "What's it like dealing with flying cars?"
Flying cars?
Yeah. Probably referencing some fun times over at
Oh,
Hot
what's it
Pit.
like dealing with flying cars? Is
Yeah.
that like Logan Hunter's?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yep.
That's got to be one of like craziest wrecks in drifting history. I feel like when you really look at that.
Yeah.
We really try to make sure that we have good roll cages.
Right.
Stick by certain things like that for that reason. So
Yeah.
it's actually not a big deal. Flying cars with us work out well because safety is good.
And I mean, I always tell people drifting is probably the safest motorsport you can do.
Yeah,
When you look at
yeah.
the major ones, at least,
Mhm.
just because of what you're doing and the speeds you're going are nowhere near high
Yeah.
speed road racing, time attack, drag racing. Like
You're matching the angle of the walls typically. You're matching the angle of the other driver typically, and only a little bit away. There's only so much speed you can get from a few inches, you know.
Yep. And then that style of track that we had. So that basically that track that he's referencing to, I'm guessing, about flying cars, we did an Atlanta style track design within Irwindale Speedway because Atlanta is my favorite track to drive on. And so what that track was, if you look at it, they would come off the bank where we normally would as the pro drivers,
yeah,
and they would shoot down, go across the middle, and then use the other infield as the keyhole of Atlanta.
oh yeah,
Shoot back. So if you go back and look at that, that was the Atlanta course designed with inside of Irwindale. And I wanted to give these guys the ability to run Atlanta without having to drive all the way over there.
yeah.
So when we had that incident, I showed it to Kevin Wells and was like, dude, like, do you think this is track design? You know, something different should have happened here. And after he watched it, he's like, you know what? This could have happened in the actual Atlanta. It's just kind of a freak thing.
Right.
Basically, you had Pablo who was in the lead run, drifted through, transitioned, and Logan had given him some distance, just to give him some distance. And like, there was the smoke line, and Logan didn't see it, and he was coming through, committed through, while Pablo had like spun and rolled back a little bit. Just perfect storm, flew off.
Exactly. I mean,
How they nice that sucker in the air.
I mean, the reality is like when you come back down the hill in Atlanta, you don't see anything when you're in the chase run.
Yeah, you're just hoping that guy's in the right spot, and that's one of the unfortunate events, But both cars could have been back at it. Had Logan's A-pillar bar not been compromised, we would have let him keep driving. But it just, I saw that it had some bends in it, just slightly. Yeah. And hey, you never know if it's going to happen again.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, happened once.
Yeah.
You never know.
So we had to park him on that one, unfortunately. But yeah.
Interesting. Let's hit into some of the FD stuff on a couple of the topics I want to hit. And one of the big reasons I actually wanted to have you on, because I think it'll be a great compare and contrast, is talking about FD's new point system, because it seems like it's very divided when just in the comments we've had and different opinions. And I personally am leaning towards liking it. Now, I know there are some mathematical issues with it, but I personally like the idea of what they're trying to do. But it definitely, for the first round, helps guys and then hurts other guys. So we had Stuckey on last week, who probably benefited the most from the new changes. So now we got you on, who probably got screwed over the most by the new changes. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on it.
Well, I came in 12th, I believe.
Yeah.
And now I don't exist.
Yep.
Yeah, and then I don't know what position Stuckey was in, but he's now in 5th.
Yeah.
He acquired 12 points from the seeding bracket, and then acquired 10 points after beating me.
Yeah.
And so now he's got 22 points, so he's up there in 5th spot. Is that right?
Yeah.
He's in 5th. Yeah, I don't know how many.
And I
points
think
he actually
Hobson's
had. I
like
just know 5th.
still in like 10th or 11th. I can pull it up.
Yeah, so it's pretty wild. I had a conversation with Odie before the season started, and we were talking about things, and he brought that up. He's like, man, it's kind of an unfair advantage in a way. And, no takeaway from Stuckey on this one. I'm sure he'll do great throughout the year. But, like, if you look at, like, Jack Shanahan or if Connor Shanahan would have acquired those 12 points last year, it's really an advantage. And it's surprising that Daigo didn't do well and Connor or Jack didn't do as well, So they weren't able to capitalize on those points. So I think it's okay. None of the guys who might be an absolute championship contender with a big team were capitalizing on it. Saying that, you got Vaughn who's coming to the next one, but he's not doing the whole season.
Right.
So I think had Jack or Daigo capitalized on the 12 points and then ran the whole series, and at the end of the year they win because of that, that would be something to kind of complain about. But I don't see that happening. So at this point, it's just a couple extra points for Stuckey, and then a couple extra points for the guys that move forward.
Yeah.
I think it'll even itself out.
Yeah. I
Right
feel
now,
like it's going to almost be like a slinky in a way, where it's going to just be constantly chasing itself.
Yeah.
Not the same drivers per se, because who's to say that like you're not going to end up there time and time again.
Well, I think I'm in the seeding bracket now, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not even sure if I'm in the seeding bracket or not.
Yeah.
I don't exist, so I'm pretty sure I'm on the seeding bracket.
Yeah.
And so, had this been last year's rules, I would have been in 12th. I would have gotten beat. That would have probably put me in 17th, 18th, or 19th place.
Yeah.
Coming out of it, right? Because usually, if you come in 12th and you get beat, you're one of the higher ones.
Yep.
Out of there, right?
Yep.
And so that's I would have been in that position with a few points. Now I'm in the seeding bracket. I like Atlanta. I won it last year. I've won there several times for Pro Spec or Pro 2, whatever they called it back then. And I've had a couple 4th place finishes there. So I'm like, all right, now here's my chance to pick up a few extra points.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty stoked actually. It's like, why not? Now I get a
Exactly.
chance to catch back up. Maybe I can be a fifth coming out of this when it's all said and done.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Well,
or even
and this
higher,
is
you
this
know.
was my whole thing. Was like the problem is the first round, nobody else gets the opportunity to get those points apart from the guys that are already in the seeding bracket. That is
Mhm.
the technical mathematical problem with the system.
Yep.
Once you move on past the first round, though, I really like it because it gives drivers an opportunity to get some points back and get out of the seeding bracket. And one of the challenges last year was we had the same guys every round in the seeding bracket. They would win the seeding bracket and then just lose in top 32, and nothing would change.
Yeah.
For a lot of them, like a guy like Dimitri Bruschi, who won I think 3 of them, but was in pretty much every seeding bracket because he would always lose the top 32 battle. And
Sure.
and so I like it because it will give us a continual rotation, hopefully, of drivers that are in the seeding bracket and kind of keep drivers on their toes.
Give me
And
1 second. I just realized I never plugged my laptop in.
all right,
I
you
might.
can go plug it in.
I can hear you though. Keep talking.
All right,
All
cool. But then also you got like, just for an example, we have guys like Andy Haitley, Dimitri Bruschi, Derek Madison, and Rudy Hansen, all not in seeding bracket according to the stats right now. Which I don't think any of those guys weren't in seeding bracket. Maybe Dimitri, but I can't remember. I don't think any of these guys weren't in seeding bracket last year. So for them, just for an example, because they won one seeding bracket battle, or they got a bye, one of that, they made enough points to now they're not in that bottom 20. And the crazy thing is I took some notes. So this is our seeding bracket lineup. Just notable notable seeding bracket guys that I've picked out. We got Simon Olsen, Ryan Literal, Rome, Jeff, obviously, Jack Shanahan, Nick Novak, Jonathan Hurst, and Daigo Saito all in the seeding bracket next round. So it's going to be pretty nuts,
Yeah.
I feel like, compared
Like
to...
we
Yeah.
like we
I feel like
compared
they
it to
fixed it.
Yeah, they definitely I think fixed it. I think what we compared to like turning on catch up like on Forza or something like that, so it gives like, the top spot can't run away as far as it possibly could. I think it keeps rebounding the pack a little bit more to keep that fight a little bit tighter. And especially like, them the first like whoever wins the event gets only 50 points now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's a much tighter point spread. So I'm curious to see where this kind of goes, and what'll be really interesting to see if like one of the top 3 guys at the end of the year did go into seeding bracket at one point during the season, because that's going to be really kind of a testament to the system and giving drivers a second chance at championship positions if they've had a bad couple rounds, or a bad round or two. Like Jeff, for example, you knocked out in top 32. Well, now like you said, here's your chance now to claw all those points back and even get some more than others.
Couple more.
Yeah.
Bonus right there.
Yeah, it's definitely a rock to the system when it comes to points. I think some of the guys are kind of concerned that they're going to end up at the bottom without any points per se, but I don't know if that even really matters. There's the guys who are worried about points and where if they're going to be at the top of it at the end of the year. It's all just about beating battles. Towards the end of it.
Yep.
Yeah, we're knocked down at this. Well, here's 4 more dudes I get to beat.
Exactly.
I actually thought the seeding bracket was nervous last year because I was in it last time.
Mm-hmm.
But last year actually had more implications if you didn't win your battle because you weren't in the show.
Mm-hmm.
This year you're in the show no matter what, so it's just
except for one guy.
Yeah, except for one guy. Well, hopefully I'm not that guy.
2.
Yeah.
2 in
Oh,
Atlanta.
2 will be 2 in Atlanta, and then wherever Vaughn drives again.
Yeah, I mean that's if we're lucky though, and everyone makes it to the, makes it with their car. We nearly missed 2 guys last top 32. Dimitri had a pretty good crash, but he made it. And then obviously
and
TLO
Tommy.
with blowing up his engine and being able
Yeah.
to still borrow a car.
Almost like I don't know if you watched the live stream at all, but I said when it happened, and Tommy, I'm sorry still, but I was like, this is kind of almost karma for clutch kicking right around and using your car as like an outer zone when you guys had shut it down. I don't know if you, yeah, and that thing's loud. I was like, that was kind of rude. I'm like, I know that you guys only get so many runs, but then we even hit that point again where there was just like a lull where they're like nobody was really doing runs anymore. It's like, yeah, when things are going smooth like that, you can get all your 12 lappies in.
Yeah, we got our 12 laps in for Long
Yeah.
Beach. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
But
was
yeah,
the probably most practice I've ever gotten for Long Beach this year.
hell yeah.
Yeah, they've done a good job of moving the show along faster for sure.
Yeah, well, that's what I said last week. It was the smoothest run FD round I've ever been to, and that might just be because also the driver count is lower, and they're kind of pickier now with the drivers that are in here, raising the floor basically on FD when it comes to driving and all that kind of stuff. But I personally I'm still an advocate for more drivers, but that's just me, you know.
Well, we have more drivers. They're just in prospect.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I came from the time when we had 70 drivers in pro, before
Yeah.
Pro 2, Pro Spec.
Yeah,
It sucked.
really.
Yeah,
I
that was a
remember
lot.
I remember being in 30, probably 30th position, or maybe 32nd, maybe 33rd. But I remember like thinking to myself, because they would do 2 classes back then, or 2 practice groups.
Yeah.
Group 1 was 1 to 30, and then group 2 would be 31 to 60, whatever.
Yeah.
They would just split in half. And I remember thinking to myself, man, I'm in like 31, 32, whatever, and I'm like, I'm the best of the worst.
Yeah, I'm driving with the misfits.
It kind of sucks.
What really sucked about that was we were in Atlanta, and everyone went in the freaking kitty litter.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, you're never gonna get a good run at that level.
I was getting like, I don't know, I was getting the worst practice.
Yep.
Not to just say everyone sucked, but there was a lot of guys that weren't good. And that's when they had just started top 32 in like 09, 2010, 2011. So a lot of the guys that they were allowing in, they were lenient on giving licenses back then.
Yeah.
I remember at Irwindale, 2000, at the end of 2009, they gave away, I believe, 19 licenses.
Wow.
And I remember thinking to myself, these MRFers, because I had fought in Top Drift for like 3 years to get my license, going up against JTP, Forrest Wang, Pat Mordaunt, Matt Powers, all these badass dudes.
Dogs.
And then having to go to Pro-Am Nationals. And then, through Pro-Am Nationals, because you would get your top 3 invite, whatever, and then go to Nationals and fight against everyone in the country, and then try to battle them, and then they only took the top 8 from that.
Yeah.
Right? And then those guys would have to battle the old pro drivers from FD, and then on the second day, and then from that, they would only take the top 8 drivers and give them a license. And so I got my license from the Red Bull Championship.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's because they didn't have Laughlin anymore, so we did that one. So that was on my 4th year, something like that, 3rd or 4th, I forget. But that's how I got my license, and I was like, "Fuck!" It was so much harder to get my license back then. And then afterwards, you showed up, you got a damn license, pretty much. They were
Wow.
too. They knew they needed to have enough drivers, and so way back then, it sucked. Having that many drivers in pro did not help me get practice to be able to turn around and be able to beat Vaughn.
Yeah.
Right? I was just practicing against dudes that weren't as good, dudes that probably didn't deserve to be there, put in as much time and effort.
Yeah.
And it sucked. And then so when I would finally get to go against, Vaughn, Dye, whoever, because I didn't qualify high because I didn't have a lot of practice, didn't have a lot of stuff, then I get my ass kicked. Right?
Nope.
So
you're only as good as your competition, and unfortunately your practice.
It helped a lot because I bit the bullet early, and I'm like, you know what, dude, I'm going to bite my pride, right? Swallow my pride and go ahead and battle in Pro 2 and Pro. I was already there,
Right.
And so I double dipped, and like Ryan Literal, he did double dip 1 year. There's a couple guys, Dimitri, right? And now he's going pro and pro spec and getting better that much faster.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not a fan of having 70 drivers in pro because right around 30, I think the drop off is fast on dudes that can really afford to be in pro correctly.
Yeah.
The skill level, unfortunately, whether it's the skill level or the car build or the car choice or the car whatever team, something happens because some of these dudes are badasses from other countries, but they're just not putting in what they could be their best work in pro, right? And so somewhere between 30 and 35, it just falls apart.
Yeah.
So I think that's where ProSpec does a better job of allowing these guys to run with their peers and perform at their best. So I like where we're at with this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, good perspective.
Sorry, I went on a tangent as soon as you said you wanted to see more drivers.
Yeah. Well, I hate buy runs. And I'm like, I don't like buy runs in top 32. It always bothered me. I was like, this isn't good for the show.
No, it's fine for the show. The show's the top 16.
Yeah, but like, I mean, you're giving James Dean a free ride every round to get into top 16.
I don't think you're giving him a free ride. I mean, you're giving him what he deserved by being either #1 qualifier or beating 31 other people in the round prior to that to get that buy run. I mean, it wasn't like, I don't know, it's not just because of his name that he got it or showed up and paid money. He had to earn to get that position.
True.
To be able to get that #1 spot to get that buy run. And it's very rare that we even have a buy run without having car malfunctions.
Yeah. Well, like last year, it was like kind of silly because 2 guys wouldn't show up to the seating bracket, so then you got a buy run because no one was there for that.
Agreed. That one sucked. That was silly. There was easily a way that they could have moved someone forward.
Right.
It's just the odd end. It's like they probably didn't predict that would happen.
Right.
Who knows?
But yeah,
they've made the changes to fix that. So
Yep.
Yeah.
So I am curious to see how the rest of the year runs, and I'm hoping that we don't get like the drop off. Obviously, we lost a bunch of drivers throughout the year last year, or like missed a bunch, for various different reasons and whatnot. So hoping we get a good consistent field for the whole season, though. Obviously, we know Vaughn's only going to be 2 rounds, but everyone else I'm talking about. But let's hit a couple more questions here in the chat. We got Phil. He's like, what has been your favorite battle in your career?
That's in the whole career is tough. I mean, it's easy to lean on. Obviously beating James Dean is something to go on my grave. That'll just go on my absolute grave for sure.
I said as soon as I have him, I was like, this dude's head must feel so big right now. He's gotta be riding this high, baby.
So that run after he made his mistake was the most nervous lead run I've done in my life. Because I'm going back to the line and I'm telling my spotter, like, holy crap, I know all I have to do is complete a lead run and I get the win. Like, screw that. I'm going balls to the wall, and I'm sorry right now if I fuck this up. But I am not taking this win with some lame-ass lead lap.
Right.
So I had already apologized to the team, and they're like, you do you. And so luckily I pulled off what was one of my better lead runs with James. Jarrett hyped the heck out of it. And it was really good because, goddamn, if I'd have won that on a crappy lead run, like a safe,
right?
I would have not been happy for that at all.
That was definitely a gangster run, dude. That was a very cool. That's one of those moments where I say to my boys, Jager and Bystrack, I always say, I'm like, you guys need like cardboard cutouts of each other in like the rear view mirror. And I was like, maybe Jeff just needs a little James Dean, like just like in the side, just like have him sitting there.
But no, when you asked the question, actually, I think beating JTP in the rain a long time ago in Long Beach, it kind of, in a way, it stopped a dead end streak that I had for a long time.
Yeah.
because there was a good amount of years in FD where I didn't beat anyone. I was just in 32, getting my ass kicked, and then finally, I think I beat Castro at one of the rounds, and then I beat JTP. But I'd always looked up to Justin. He's always been the badass from Top Drift, right? So his name comes up a lot when I'm talking about things. That's because that's kind of like my original, badass guy that I had to beat from my pro am days. So he was the one who I looked up to originally, to who was the best. And so when I beat him in his Mustang, there was just me and my whip. I was like pretty stoked on that one. So that was like my own super high feeling right there for that one. The audience probably didn't know as much that it meant to me. And JTP was super pissed off afterwards. So that it meant more.
Yeah, what's new? JTP mad? Oh, it's just another day.
He's
right?
just passionate. That's all it really
He's
is.
just
Yeah.
Oh, he is. He definitely is.
Yeah.
Snoop Mike asks in the chat, Jeff, what shampoo do you use?
Oh my god.
I
Whatever
still use shampoo.
Whatever is the body wash at the hotel.
There you go.
Damn smart. True. Yeah, typically sometimes it's either one or the other. They either
I mean,
have shampoo,
like,
no
this
body
is
wash, or
like-
body.
What are you using shampoo on, bro?
I use shampoo for my noggin, dude. It's different skin.
I don't know. I don't have time for that. I would shave my head even if I had a full head of hair. That's too much.
I can still grow hair, but I've had a receding hairline since I was 18. So
Yeah.
I would just it's gone.
yeah, it's one of those things. Phil had also asked why you have a katana in your Z. That was a hilarious video.
That's the Prisma Labs katana. We needed a hood prop one day, and we borrowed that, and it's stuck ever since.
That was definitely pretty dang silly.
My favorite story was Stookie when he took your card. He like found it and he was like, "What in the world is this thing?"
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that's amazing. Celine Drift asks, "What's the trick to kick ass in Atlanta?" Without giving away your secrets.
I did some research a few years ago, and I saw Christoph Loos kicking that out there, and I was like, "What is he doing differently from everyone else?" That was, I think, the start of me doing pretty good in Atlanta, figuring out his line there. But really, I vibe with that track. That's like one of the tracks that I really enjoy driving. So I think that's the biggest part of it, is vibing with the track and feeling good and comfortable. Not trying to overgrip the car, but just feeling, one with what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I think that's hard to do when you hate a certain track or just, can't find the love for it.
Right. Yeah. And big balls, for when you're in Chase. He's like, we're gonna transition now, and okay, we made it out alive. Good.
Yeah, that last turn's actually scarier than you think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the tracks that I've never liked it as a drift track. I love it as an atmosphere thing, just because so many battles are won and lost on entry.
Yeah, Nate's crazy for this one, Brandon.
That's a crazy take there, Nate.
It's not though, because so many drivers cut each other off on that inner clip, and it bugs me because it ruins the rest of the run.
Well, I mean, if they continue to keep up the judging the way how they did from Long Beach, people are going to have a very rude awakening if they touch even a centimeter of tire past that clip.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. But because I don't know, just that's always been the thing with Atlanta, is it's always been tough from a competition side to get these crazy close tandems, because guys, I mean that's what you want to do in the lead. As soon as you get to that inner clip, you want to go. You know?
Yeah.
And if you can just cut it just a hair, just to even cut off the guy behind you a little bit more, then that's what people do.
See, I would disagree on your take, because I think that Atlanta has, it's either a strong point at the beginning or a strong point at the end. So from initiation all the way up to the keyhole is one part where people usually dominate for the chase driver.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or people blow that, and then they do great from the keyhole all the way back down the hill.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so usually if they mess up the first part, they can get the second part. Or if they get the first part really good, they usually mess up the second part. So to me, it's always been kind of like two halves.
Mm-hmm.
And the dudes who really absolutely crush it have somehow put both halves together.
Right.
But I think Atlanta, even if you mess up the first part, it's one of those decel areas into the keyhole. It gives you the opportunity to catch back up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in the keyhole is where drivers can figure out, how to make up the mistake from the beginning.
Yeah. I was more talking like how there's always collisions at that inner clip from the chase cars waiting for the lead car to go, and the lead car is
Oh,
just
like, are you
kind of
hitting
like
Rome
parking
there?
it. And yeah, so like that's the stuff that really bothers me because it's so hard to judge that.
Yep.
And
Were you talking when they run wide and they go into the kitty litter?
no, like they legit they'll park on that inner clip, and the guy in the chase is just waiting to go, and just sitting there, and eventually they just hit the lead driver, and the lead driver spins or shuts down the run, and it's happened a lot there.
Yeah, last year there was a bunch of hits. I know Rome was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
He got beat up.
Odie got hit, or he hit Rome. I forget.
Yeah, I think
Well,
he hit Rome.
He hit Rome.
But I mean,
Yeah.
we're doing, I don't know how fast, 90,
Yeah.
Just under 100.
back down to 40, back up to 70 or 80.
Yeah.
It's a tough part of the track, this kind of nature of the game, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe we put too much emphasis on not hitting that clip sometimes.
Right.
So you're slowing down to make sure you get past it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And those rumble strips, man, they'll take the freaking wheels out if you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially that entry rumble's crazy.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
again,
You had a close call last year or 2 years ago coming back up the rumble strip, and I think you dropped the tire, right?
Yeah, I've lost the
And
wheels.
that-
Lost
yeah.
full corners there for sure.
Yeah, and that made you do. I was standing right. I was like, "Oh no, please, Lord, no! Don't do it! Don't do it!"
Multiple times I have lost a full corner there. If you get greedy and you just stay matted on the inside, you can lose your whole front right corner. Or one year, me and Reader almost went in. Well, we got into it, and we almost went into the wall together.
Yeah.
Luckily, we almost stayed out of that. Yeah, it's been fun.
That's definitely one of my favorite tracks all around for fan base, track layout, just everything.
Well,
like
the vibes are
the
just so cool.
Atmosphere, yeah, the vibes are great. But I tell you what, I play that on a Seto. I admit that I am ass. That is still one I have to put lots of time into, and it's like, okay, that was okay. But that's how I feel.
In real life.
Yeah, and that's how I feel. Like the things that like Nate says, like I would just chalk that up to just driver mod error. Like this is a hard track. It really is, and it's
And
like
Prospect really shows that off.
yeah.
Dude.
I don't want to say I don't feel bad at all, because like there's probably a ton of other people. Well, not probably. There are a ton of other people that would kill to be into that position, that would probably rip that track, but they don't have the funds, terrible business plan, whatever it might be, or they're like 11 and they just rip on a sim or something, and
Well, it shows the truth. The Prospect guys are the best in their local region, and they show up.
Yeah.
They find out how crazy it really is. So it really just kind of goes to show you who's sending who forward before they're ready.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's cool to see, like, and especially like with that, like you take some of these rookies or even dudes that have been in it for a couple of years, and like, you dust the cobwebs off. You're entering back in your first round of your 4-round season, and yeah, you start off pretty shit, but like if you dial in, like, cool, like you've actually you.
I mean, it's not
attained
even
something.
shit, right? It's just shit amongst dudes doing badass.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all perspective. Yeah.
Pro used to be 10 years ago.
Sure.
It is all perspective. And
These guys sucking asses.
Yeah.
They're doing really good. Just they're doing really bad compared to the guys who are doing great.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's like
Well,
looking at your favorite baseball team or something like that, or you call this one dude terrible, and you're sitting on your couch with a bag of potato chips and a couple of beers. It's like, who am I really to judge?
Yeah. So you actually brought up an interesting point that piqued my interest, and it was, does FD kind of look at what drift organizations like let into Prospec, and do they like reevaluate that for next year? Like,
I think that they do, because I don't know if they do as far as skill level,
Yeah.
but I do know that they do as far as like driver count and what it looked like throughout the series.
Yeah.
So if you had a Pro-Am series and you only had 10 or 11 drivers show up,
Yeah.
and this guy got his license, and you find out at the end of the year, okay, your total count was on an average of 10 to 15 people per event.
Right.
I think those are the ones they ex-nay for the year after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Because there's a few that have gone away. I don't know if you've noticed, but
Mm-hmm.
there's a few
Yeah.
series that haven't come back this year. And that part's tough to get driver count to sign up and want to sign up.
Yep.
Yeah.
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 I mean, even the gambler, like they don't offer anything, but it's a local track, but like nobody really. It gets filled, but nobody comes out to spectate. Nobody really fills to a top 32 all the time. It's just tough, and that's at E-Town, So
Yeah. One of the coolest tracks in the whole United
yeah,
States.
so
And
it's just a
they're-
matter of just trying to actually get people to want to compete and to to show them something shiny on the other end to draw their attention, and like how much effort it really does take to make that happen.
I
Like
kind of look at that as like sometimes certain football teams, like certain high school football teams, they're badass for these 2 years or 3 years, and they suck for several years. It's like,
Mhm.
what's the wave of kids coming through that weekend?
Yeah.
So you might have X amount of years where SoCal is like the best of the best, and then that wave.
Oh, I lost them all. They'll come back.
I never thought of it like that.
Low on driver count right now of what's hot on the East Coast, but
Yeah.
I'm sure in a few years it's big again.
Yeah.
knocking us out one by one right now, dude.
I know
I
what's
know,
going
dude.
on.
I was like, what? I don't
I'm
know.
waiting to see more drivers from different states. Like where's the
Yeah.
Arizona's got a bunch of good people. Albuquerque's got not Rad Dan,
Mhm.
Dan, freaking brain fart, Officer Dan.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but there's a few other states. I guess there's drifting in Portland, but
I just feel like Texas has always been like a lot of drivers, but I don't know if there's like been major rippers, out of there,
Yeah, I'm trying to think of any major shining stars.
yeah,
But,
there's as many Prime series as you think there'd be.
I know, right? There's a big Pro-Am series over there.
Yeah. But you should think like regionally. When you look on the Formula D website and you go to partners, I think that there's only like 10 different Pro-Am series
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
you can acquire a license from.
oh wow.
Man, there should be one in every state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then maybe make it harder. Only one license per state kind of scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
have a few different organizations for each state, but then like, maybe have then a regional championship that then
Yep.
you got like a northeast like section, like southeast, and then like your mid north, mid south, and then so you have ultimately like 6, and then say now you do you give out 2 licenses or whatever, and you got a West Coast and an East Coast challenge. So
Yeah.
No,
I don't know how many
Arca on
licenses.
steroids.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that takes coordination and stuff.
That's
and,
all I have.
Something
Just
with
kidding. I'm like a baby giraffe in life.
It's a lot of dedication to running events for sure. It's
Yeah.
100%.
not as easy. I mean, to run them at least the scale that I'm running them at, with me, RJ, my wife Christina, it's damn near a full time job in some ways.
I
Yeah.
bet.
Yeah. I
So
bet.
to get it to this level, to really want to get the amount of people to want to come out, it's pretty tough. But I'd love to see some more just like the local guys, at local track events. Maybe it's tracks that are being shitty. I was talking about that on the other podcast about the tracks that we deal with,
Mm-hmm.
how racetracks are not always set up for everyone else to succeed.
Yeah.
They're either greedy themselves, they don't let you try to come in and make $1. It's like, hey man, you gotta be able to afford just to even rent the place. Like, let me
Right.
at least cover what I was trying to make here or trying to
Right.
spend.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
Willow Springs, for example. I don't know what's going to happen there. They've obviously sold it. They've got some new people that have it, and they're going to charge more, right? But in the
Yeah.
past, they would charge their gate fee, $10 or $15, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
But they wouldn't let you charge your gate fee. You know, so you could maybe double charge, like they should pay their $15 at the bottom, but then you got to pay another $10 once you go up to a Horse Thief Mile or somewhere.
Right.
Like, well,
Yeah.
that kind of sucks to have to pay two different fees.
2 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like if you showed up and said, "Hey, man, I'm here for this event," they should be able to kick you down some of that gate money because you
Yeah.
obviously brought someone to the desert,
Mhm.
to their venue.
Yeah.
And sure, we can charge more. Charge.
Yeah. Say
Yeah.
25 instead of, then double charging, and then you just split the difference right
Yeah,
there.
split the difference. Allow the organizer to make a little bit of money, and this isn't just so the organizer can make money, put it in his pocket. It's so that he can, run
Continue
these
doing
events.
Yep.
Afford the freaking trophies, afford all the stuff that he's got to do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Insurance and all that. Whatever you need. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot. So props to you for maintaining a level head and pushing through all of the chaos.
Yeah, we'll see how our next event goes. Our next event for Hot Pit is this weekend.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
April 19th at Kern County Raceway. And so this is, I don't know if you guys know, Tim Huddleston owns this racetrack. He's the same guy who was running Irwindale Speedway.
Okay. Yeah.
And so, he's a bit of a hard ass to work with, but he's a super cool guy. He'll, just wants to make sure that he's covered, right? Because if you
Yeah.
mess something up and he doesn't have his way to keep making money, then he's going to be pissed.
Right.
But, he's allowing us to rent a facility or do a type of rev share
Yeah.
or whatever we've worked out for that event, but it allows people to make money and try to work for it so they can afford to do things and get back to the drivers.
Yeah.
And so for this event, we're actually doing a circle track coincide with drifting.
Really.
So it's going to be drifting, circle track, drifting, circle track, drifting. So like late model, legend, enduro, all these
Sick,
different
man.
classes coming out. So it's going to be a long ass day if you guys are listening and coming out to it.
Mhm.
But you're going to get to enjoy multiple motorsports, for the price of one. And hopefully, my take on it is, when we went to Bakersfield the first time, we did not bring a lot of fans. Somewhere in the neighborhood of like probably 800 actual paid spectators that were
Yeah.
there. You add in the amount of extra people that were there for us and working and drivers and crew.
Yeah.
We're probably, I don't know, 1,200, 1,500 people.
Right.
But like actual spectators that just showed up, those are low numbers for what we would normally do out here.
Right.
So with Circle Track, we're hoping to hit over 3,000 people.
Yeah.
And ideally, we'll convert a lot of these fans to drift fans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
some of the fans will become Circle Track fans, and then they'll support the track locally because they came out for a drift event. They actually like Circle Track.
I love
So
going
either
to
way,
a silly circle track
I mean,
race.
Everything. We got to promote Circle Track, drifting, motorsports as a whole.
Yep.
At the track, spend the money, unfortunately, but if you wanted to stay there, we saw Irwindale go away. So if Irwindale will go away, then anything can go away.
Yep.
Spend the money, go enjoy it. Hopefully, we get more fans. And, because right now, Orange Show Speedway, if that goes away, we're screwed. If our other venues go away, we're screwed. I definitely can't. Not that I can't, but I don't want to run Hot Pit out of Willow Springs.
Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
tough one. I finally went there for my first time ever, and that place is a maze, first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, out there. I don't know, how far away is it from you? That's probably like 3 hours, right?
Yeah, for me, where I'm currently residing at, it's 3 hours. Where I used to be, it was only like an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah. So
yeah,
that,
from your basic like LA person, it's an hour and a half drive.
yeah.
Out in the middle of the desert. Not that it's just, anywhere in LA is like an hour and a half drive. Go get tacos. It's an hour. and a half.
With plenty of miles on the ticker. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an 80-mile drive up into the desert. It's hot. It sucks. But if you're a car fan, any of that's fine. We'll go to the desert, hang out all day
Yeah.
long. Trying to get, your mom and your girlfriend, the rest of the boys to come hang out and watch you. That's the tough part.
Yeah,
So,
it's not necessarily the most beautiful facility going around. You know,
Yeah.
they got the essentials that they need. Yeah, but
Exactly.
it's
yeah.
a little dated, just like
Yeah.
E-Town a little bit.
So the track that we're going to this weekend, it's actually very similar to Irwindale. It's newer. It's badass.
Mhm.
Like, it's very state of the art. Nice bathrooms, nice overlook. It's actually a pretty cool spot. But it's in the middle of nowhere as far as like off the 5 freeway, right by Bakersfield, just before
Okay.
Buttonwillow Raceway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
Yeah, definitely, guys, go check out Hot Pits. You guys got the live stream and all that kind of stuff, and
yeah, that's been an
yeah,
adventure on its own doing the
yeah,
live stream. That was a scenario where we wanted to try to bring that so everyone could watch. Because like nowadays, you have to have a live stream, right? It's like everyone's got it. But to produce a good live stream
Yeah,
is difficult.
it's hard.
You
It's
guys
very
know
Yeah.
putting this together. Um, and myself as a production person, like I said, I own a stage. We do concerts, stage lighting, sound. I knew that if we just paid someone outright to do it every time, we were going to be losing our ass.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So long run of sustainability, we're like, let's just buy all the equipment. Let's figure out how to do it ourselves. So luckily, actually, one of the dudes that asked the question, Michael Snoop, he is our director, I guess you'd call it,
yeah,
manager. Um, him and Z, they put together a list of crap we needed to buy, and we spent a bunch of money on it.
Mhm.
And now we're learning, and all these mistakes that you see us doing, that's because we're not professionals at this,
yeah,
but we are hoping that in the long term, earlier you said about things that come and go and then just go away, like
yeah,
Clutch Kickers, unfortunately. Now they got someone else running it. Hopefully it's good. But we wanted to have sustainability.
right.
We couldn't afford to spend 15 grand per round
Mhm.
doing live stream,
Yeah.
So now we're just paying our buddies to do it. We already own the equipment. So by the time we get to the end of the year or next year, our live stream is going to be that much better, and we can
Yeah.
put that much more money into actually running it the way we want to.
And you're just a self-sustaining organization then.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
the goal.
Heck yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let's hit a couple more questions here. I don't know if this is a sore subject or not, but Steve Clown did bring up. I think Byron beat Jeff the most from all drivers in
I
history.
absolutely hate Byron. I have told like Matt Sopa every time I can, hey, do I have to do a freaking Byron? Yeah, you gotta do a Byron. So like, dude, like, I don't know when it started, but I got in fourth place in Texas in COVID, and then the next day I had to do a Byron. Literally go to do my Byron, and my crankshaft like broke off,
Yep.
like in front of the motor.
Yeah.
And then that just kept happening every time I had to Byron in Washington, slamming up against the wall. Like, dude, Byron's not cool. I always do something dumb. I don't like it. No, it's so sucks.
Oh
Fuck
man.
that guy. Fuck
I
Byron.
don't mind Byrons and FD. I just don't want to go against them.
Yeah, I know, right? We did get a question of best favorite song to karaoke to from Mean
Oh, well, I guess I don't know if it's my favorite. It's just the only one that I know. It's Lit One Worst Enemy.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Classic.
Good one.
Yeah, it's classic. Pretty easy to sing.
Yeah.
Pretty easy.
Speaks to my younger dumbness.
Yeah, here we go.
Cars in your front yard or something.
Yeah, for sure.
That's good.
What was the other one? There was another one I saw. Looking forward to seeing what local series looking forward to see what Utah with Drift Buffet is gonna produce. Brandon V, who does the Jeff think is the top driver to watch out for in the next round of Hot Pit?
Oh, he's gone.
And he's gone.
And he's gone.
Well, you're not gonna get that answer. No.
Just
Bro,
kidding. And he's back.
Yeah.
Right when I was going to say it, it would have been great.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you said top drivers to look out for in Hot Pit.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't want to throw anyone onto the bus, make someone look good. Make
No,
someone
just
look bad.
one. Just one driver.
Someone who I've been waiting to see on the podium, who I know is young but absolute badass, is probably Logan Hunter.
Yeah.
I feel like that dude's just got all kinds of skill and just keeps making small mistakes. But
Yeah, he makes me feel bad on the sim all the time.
oh
Every
yeah,
time
yeah.
I play. I'm only actually 13 years old or something, right? Isn't that kid?
No,
He's 18.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. All right,
yeah,
I'm thinking
he's
of a
better than
different
me in
looking
freaking
kid.
hairpin at AVS. I'm like, bro, you can't beat me in the hairpin. Come on, that doesn't even count as doors. But no, he's like a young badass who I think he's got a lot of history, you know, and with his dad and everything that's happening. I think he's someone who's going to probably start exploding pretty soon.
Hell yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and
Yeah.
we're close to the 2 hour mark, but I wanted to ask my favorite and last question, and that is, do you have an Andy Luck story that you can legally tell us? I always have to preface that now.
Yeah, you do. You really got one that you could legally tell. I mean, you know, I don't know if there's one that sticks out in mind that I can tell you. There's definitely some that I know of that I can't tell you. Great. But no, I mean, like Andy's definitely that dude will chew your ass out. I remember one time in Vegas when me and my wife had pulled up and thought we could probably try to park somewhere where we weren't allowed to park, and he like yelled at us, we yelled at him, and he just yelled at us back much louder.
He's very good at that.
You don't mess with Andy, bro. But that guy's ended up being one of the nicest, coolest people to help me out. So he's just, you know, he just barks to put you in your place first, and then right after that, he'll take care of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and it's true. Like, I mean, I have heard of him helping so many people behind the scenes, even like different people getting track time at different places and in California and stuff. And I'm sure he's had a thing or two maybe to help on behind the scenes with you and all the stuff that you've been doing.
Yeah,
So
no, he's one of the first people I'll go to when I have a problem, for sure. You know, if I got a question, hey, how can I break this rule or do something dumb or do this? You know, he's one of the go-tos.
Yeah. So no, it's I always get interesting answers though. I've had some pretty great first day at FD stories from some guys like Dylan Hughes and like all these kinds of guys who just basically get kicked out of their first day of FD. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
Nearly getting kicked out, and it's like, yeah.
No, do you know who Chris Milano is?
Yeah.
Okay, he had him kicked out at Vegas one time. That was hilarious. Got a tow truck, got his car, got his entire team, and just
wow.
said, okay. And I don't know where Chris was, and he came back and said, where's my team?
Yeah.
Your team is acting like a bunch of idiots. They are now outside the fence.
Just like that.
This is one of those guys, man. But yeah, no, again, thank you for coming on. Like, this was a lot of fun talking about, because you do so many different things outside of FD, whether it was traveling the world or, you know, running one of the probably more successful drift series in America, I would assume. I mean, I'd put it up there. You know, there's not too many that can say that. Well, there's not any else that can say they're offering a Pro 1 license. That's for sure. So that's really cool to see, and I wish you all the luck on that kind of stuff. Where's the best people to find out more information about you, and then also more information on the events that you are running and promoting?
Super simple. Like literally, Instagram is my go-to. Jeff Jones Racing.
Yeah.
And I'll probably, if somebody shoots me a message, I'll get to it within a day or a week. You know, especially if it's a FD weekend or hot pit weekend. But I'll usually answer every single message on there and eventually get to it. Even the freaking little punks that go there and say, "Hey, how do I become a pro driver?"
You got the copy paste ready to go.
I really should, dude, but I feel bad, and it's in my heart that I feel like this guy might be the next badass. So you know, you never know.
How many credit cards do you have? Get 2 more.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're gonna meet all of them. And then the other one is Hot Pit Autofest on Instagram. I do have somebody else running that one, but they run all the questions they need to by me. So that's the easiest go-tos for those. Hot Pit Autofest, we have our live stream that'll be this weekend as well.
Mm-hmm.
So for all of those events, that's the easiest way.
Heck yeah.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
No, it's been a good time. Herbie and Brandon, you got anything cool going on? I heard Brandon chickened out this weekend, so.
Yeah, he did.
Wow.
I'm
You
filling
guys
in.
suck.
I'm the wild card for VDC this weekend.
Yeah, I
Yep,
wish.
that's what's happening.
Me and old Trusty are gonna take this thing to the top.
I mean, you'd probably do better than Brandon anyway, so it's all good.
Yeah, it's better than a 0.
Hate this. What the
I
fuck's
hate
going on?
this. I hate this. No, but I'm not doing anything. As far as I know, hopefully hearing some positive results from Bystrack round 2 at Cleo's shop with the Mustangs. So
Yeah.
yeah, motor gets torn
Is-
apart tomorrow, and then hopefully
Jeez.
reassembled by Thursday, and then dyno again on Saturday, Sunday. But it's only the front case that they gotta take apart. He's just gotta check the timing, because the dude who built it, well, all the signs are pointing to the guy that built it 180 degrees out of timing. So the
Yeah.
best part about this is it's under Ford warranty. He got it from Ford. He bought the motor from Ford, got it built by Ford. It's all under warranty.
So,
He's like, this is the best thing about this new car.
my Ford is currently broken, so I feel the pain.
Yeah, found on road dead. You know, maybe my dad pushing that into my brain is actually a true thing from since I was a little kid. But
I bought a Dodge.
Yeah.
So,
No. But
no, more Dodge. I don't know. Bad addiction. Bad addiction.
Bad addiction.
So what
Yeah.
are you doing this weekend, Brandon? Anything good?
I got an event, hosting an event at Porsche Atlanta Northeast. So if you're in Atlanta, come on out. Got a couple car groups coming out before they head out to Fuel Fest. So some of that good stuff. But yeah, just doing that thing. I'll have one of my sims out there, and I won't take up too much more time. But tax season's over. If you get your tax return and want to get sim stuff, go to boundlessracing.com and get your sim gear. You know,
Gotta get it. Gotta
gotta
plug.
get it.
Gotta
That's
do
right.
it, man. Just one quick question. What's your sim setup, Jeff? Since you said you've been running it, so
Yeah, it's a Fanatec Club Sport 2.5,
okay.
like the belt-driven one.
Yeah.
I've got my personal wheel on this Fanatec adapter with the buttons,
Yeah.
Mhm.
so it's an actual like full-size wheel. Let's see if I don't know if I can turn this. This is my Prisma seat.
Boom. There you go.
Definitely way unnecessary to have a Halo seat as your.
You mean you're not getting thrown around or anything like that?
Yeah, definitely so unnecessary. But Prisma is a sponsor, and this seat was actually a little bit tight. So the original plan was to have some laps in it and then get it to like fit me better, and then put it in the pro car. We never ended up doing that.
Yeah.
I don't know what these pedals are. They're an older Fanatec. Remember when like Fanatec had like the Porsche wheel? Oh no, wait, I lied to you. No, it's Fanatec. I think it
Yeah,
was
they had
Fanatec, like
the Porsche Club Sport thing.
they got to be from like 2010 or something. They're 3 pedals and they're adjustable. I don't know. I don't know much about this stuff.
And they work.
I do have an $80 shifter off of Amazon.
Nice. Yep.
It's like $89. It's a 7-speed like gated shifter.
Yep. Probably
Actually
the
works really
Thrustmaster
damn
or
good.
whatever.
Right. Yeah, a Thrustmaster copy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then my handbrake is a Del Sol handbrake.
Oh,
A Honda
that's
Del Sol.
cool.
That's so cool.
And here, let me see if I can just move this out of here without wrecking the world. Can you see that handbrake right there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, look at that.
Upright handbrake.
I like how it's vertical.
Wow.
2
Yeah.
wires going into that thing. And I have that going into an Adreno board.
Yep.
Now. Yeah.
And then I don't know if you guys know Scotty D,
Mhm.
but Scotty helped me to program the Adreno board just to talk to the handbrake, just to make it's just a ground switch.
Yeah.
Every time the switch grounds out when I pull the handbrake, it does whatever it does, and so my handbrake is just basically it's a button, but that's all.
That's
Yep,
funny.
yep. Yeah, it's pretty basic. Oh, VR, Rift S. I cannot drive at all without VR.
Really?
Ridiculous, yeah. When I try it on the TV, it's the worst. I don't get it. Like perspective of where I would be is just terrible.
You're
I don't
right.
like it at all.
Yeah.
So with VR, I'm an okay driver. Without VR, I don't even care to drive.
Yeah.
It
That's
doesn't make any sense about VR. The proximity of everything,
hmm
depth perception.
as long as it doesn't make you sick, it's cool.
No, not at all. I'm lucky on that part. I don't get sick, but it's fun to invite my friends over to try it and then they get sick.
That's
It's
funny.
funny people that are like, "Oh, okay, I'm good."
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's either that or drinking. So pick which one.
Yeah, a little
All
bit.
right. Yeah. What the hell? You can have both.
Exactly. So, but again, guys, everyone, thank you for hanging out in the chat. Everyone, another great show, and thank you for all the questions. And again, if you have more questions, don't be afraid to ask Jeff on Instagram. And I think that's going to end off the show here for this week. We are going back to Tuesday only shows just because, it's chaos right now. We're in the middle of drift season, so time to focus on real drifting and doing that stuff. But again, thank you guys all for checking out the show, and we will be